Okay, it's a business meeting.
And to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Joseph Barton is the first person.
Okay, those papers I served you are all ceases and desists from all the criminal activity and violations of your authority that this board is doing. I really would recommend you read it and correct all your violations. You do not have the authority to do most of what you've been doing, and it's all in that cease and desist. So you have all been warned.
Thank you very much.
Up is Steve Liverstein and Jim Cohen.
We come not to admonish you, but to applaud you for the resolution that you have
If
drafted.
you're not going to admonish us, please sit down.
Let him speak.
We
Let him speak.
misunderstood. So we are urging the board to take action to make the Parks Department make the restoration of the beach and swimming area at the park number one priority, rather than coming after the rehabilitation of the dog exercise area. And item number 9, it should be item number 1. The dogs are okay now, I think. And I think from what we understand, but both of us went, one went to one and one went to the other of the 2 meetings that were held. And almost everybody made this restoration of the beach and the swimming area their major concern. Many of us had taken our kids there over the years. We'd like to take our grandchildren. We can't do that. But we think that this would also benefit the town in yet another way by easing the parking problem and the crime that sometimes occurs at Big E, for example, where we had an incident last summer, break in the middle of the day. I think the resolution that Jeremy drafted is excellent, and it's what we had hoped the board would do, and we urge you to pass it. And to follow up with our state representatives, we hope that they can persuade the governor to find some money to fund this. But we would ask you if there are other things that the residents of the town can do to speed this along.
I would say tomorrow, assuming this passes, and I'm sure it will, I'm going to ask our deputy town clerk to make a certified resolution and sending it to the governor, to our state senator, to the Lieutenant Gabriel, to whom I've already spoken to about this issue. Follow-up letters don't hurt. And letters are better than email.
Letters to
Letters to George Amador, our state senator.
easy enough to find out.
Yes.
Actually, the same letter to all 3 of them would
Yes.
be the icing on the cake.
Yes.
Amador Cahill and
The
And the
governor.
governor.
And the governor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Because they're the ones who have the first strings. They're the
I
ones
can
who
see that.
can
Okay, so I think,
actualize it.
yeah.
so letters with multiple signatures, or with try to get a
No,
lot of signatures?
individual, they had mentioned.
Individual, really.
Individual, not.
If people are willing to do it, if they're not, then, just have them please sign this petition.
You could even print out a form letter and just hand it out for people. It could be the same letter.
Right.
You don't have to get
Better
a
than
big
a
petition.
But it looks.
I think so.
Okay.
I'll tell you why, because I get letters and I get petitions.
And which one?
Petitions, it's just, first of all, I don't even know if all these people are Woodstock residents or not. And in many cases where they do put down their addresses, they're not. So what am I going to do with that? So, but a letter from a resident that says, boom.
Okay.
And usually one letter means there's at least 20 people,
Right.
Okay.
that's making that letter
So
happen.
you get 10 letters is 200 people.
Everybody will hear that.
Yes.
And perhaps we'll make a letter, we'll leave it at our local post office.
Yeah,
so that you can-
but tomorrow, my letter to the governor and our 2 state representatives will be going out with a copy of this
Great.
certified resolution. And we'll just see.
Okay, so thank you for taking such
Well,
quick
thank
action.
you. Thank you for going to that
This
meeting.
entire board supports this. Everybody.
I would thank you too, because I think we talked about this a couple of months ago, and I think we were a little under the assumption that it was going to happen. And then when I talked to you the other day on the phone, and you said, might not, you know, it's not high on the list.
Well, the official from the State Parks Department who's in charge of this said that everything's up in the air, and of course we're competing with every other state park in New York State for this. And
Now, there's one thing, there's a distinction here to keep in mind. Most parks in New York State are governed by New York State Parks and Recreation and Historic Preservation. This one is administered by the DEC.
Okay,
It's one of the few, so the attention should be toward the DEC. This is their park.
okay.
It's rare, and I think it's because it's in the Catskill. I don't know what all the reasons were, but it is an exception to the rule of this particular park.
I think-
It's a DEC facility.
I think that also creates other revenue streams. or
Well, that's good. I
possibilities.
mean, but they, you know, they made it clear that there was competition for this, and then one of the parks rangers followed us down as we were leaving to say, you know, remind us that the governor actually found money all of a sudden to put in a kayak launching place near the traffic circle on 28. That wasn't in the budget, and that if we wanted this to happen, we should get organized and put some pressure on, so that was what encouraged us to do this.
Well, thank you for doing it, because.
So, Nick, maybe you could
all these-
also-
Over the years, I did years ago with children, I mean,
I know.
there's no places to swim.
We've really missed this, and last summer was sort of the blow when my daughter took our two grandchildren to Big Leap in the middle of the day, and while she was watching them in the water, somebody smashed her window and robbed whatever was in the car, and the police made it sound as though this was not an isolated incident. So I understand that there are problems that go beyond the parking, and that this would help to alleviate that, perhaps. Anyway, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll take up more than a few minutes.
Thank you, guys.
And you said Steve, and what was your name?
Jim Cullen.
Thank you.
And Nick, with you sitting here, I would, maybe you could just mention something in the article this week that, you know, any town residents interested in seeing this happen, letters would be helpful. Thanks.
Alicia.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next time we'll come back with that.
He doesn't admonish us. What's happening?
With floating devices.
Pardon?
Come back with floating devices.
Okay. Water wings.
There you go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Time again. July 14th, Woodstock Times. I'm Felicia Kutchik, by the way. And it says in a letter to the Woodstock Times, PAW's position near the bottom, our Vice President Ida Lefevre has made no accusations against anyone. She merely gave the written observations of 8 witnesses to the videotaped interruption, which there wasn't any, wasn't even a disruption, of our performance on April 16th at the Community Center's liaison to the town board. We wish all parties well and hope that the dispute about a rant to the TV studio will be resolved soon, as we hope it will be resolved soon. Adele Calcavecchio, President of the Board of Performing Arts of Woodstock. That was July 14th. July 15th. Since that observations of 8 witnesses is foible, having been given to the town board, I then made this FOIA, which is as yet unanswered, asking for a copy of those written observations. That was July 15th, and today is August 16th. It says here that they're supposed to respond within 5 business days. Either yes, we have it, or no, we don't, or whatever. Or here it is. And Jackie Early told me in a phone conversation I had with her on August 9th, 2016 at 3:33 p.m. that she she didn't try to call me, but that she spoke with Jay and gave him the FOIA because he's the liaison. So, do you have an answer as to why you haven't, observed the open meetings records and actually the Freedom of Information Act with regard to this for over a month?
Can I respond briefly?
You may, you don't have to, but you may.
Yes. I didn't get that request for the FOIL for a good while. Parenthetically, I am not a liaison to the community center, but that doesn't make any difference.
Or to
Not
not to PAW either.
No,
No?
no,
You don't have
no,
it.
no, no.
I don't know why I was told that by the town clerk.
She was
Very
misinformed.
nice. In any event,
That's why she's not
I
here.
just brought in this evening a written response to the request.
Okay, if I could take it now?
Well, actually, you should give
Go
it,
through the office.
Jackie is the information officer, she should get it and then transmit it.
Yeah.
Because she's the one who receives spoils, it's her obligation really to respond to them. So that's my suggestion there.
Yeah.
Now, if I may just take a sentence, you know, you've had a while now, and you acted even before you saw the video, which proves that there was no real disruption, and you acted with only one side of the information. Have you simply apologized, you know, here in public, since it was, the accusations were in public, and a little letter to the Times, since it was all published in the Woodstock Times. I'm only speaking for myself, and not for anyone else. I would have been glad to have dropped the matter if you simply said, well, I'm sorry, but maybe I acted a little too soon without seeing the other side, and I shouldn't have like been, you know, so harsh in public.
All right, you want a response? I totally disagree.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on. Thank you.
Randy?
As the one who is accused of obscene behavior by you, Jay, I do demand a response. And I do demand to know the identities of the people who filed those alleged complaints against me, the 8 complaints. When we were told by Jackie that you were in fact the liaison to the PAW, which, by the way, as I've documented in the Woodstock Times, has had a history of interfering with the operation of Channel 23 before they even moved into the newly revamped community center. I want to know, the question that I was left with is why a part-time group that is headquartered in West Hurley, not in Woodstock, and charges for its services and only functions occasionally, has liaison to the town board, or as such, positive relations to the town board, when a similar 501c3, headquartered, located, and serviced to Woodstock 365 days a year, 7 days a week, is treated like such crap, not only by you, but by other people in this town board that were involved in the redesign of the community center, and I believe specifically designed to keep me out of the TV studio. And the one time that I tried to get into the TV studio because I was asked to come to a producers meeting, which because of an injury that has been documented here by 6 people, and I could still show you the edema that I had because of that injury in early April, that I couldn't even go there to a producers meeting because the phone was strangely not working that day at Channel 23. I was going to lie on my couch all afternoon and phone in whatever I had to say on the couch. The phone didn't work. So I had to figure out how I was going to struggle in there with an injury on top of an old injury that everybody on this town board saw.
Yeah.
And I was absolutely mistreated.
Thank you.
And I demand to know who my accusers are.
Okay. Okay.
Kate? Kate, I don't know what your last name is, Van Buren or Van Bark?
Van Buren.
Okay.
So I'm just wondering about town regulations on Airbnbs. So we spoke on the phone earlier, it's an issue. And I know in the paper, they said that, and when we spoke on the phone, you said that homeowners can't rent their house out if they're not there. They are, and it's a huge problem. So I'm just wondering like what the town is doing. They passed a regulation at the state level to make them not an option in the city. It's really a problem. You know, my neighbor rents out their house and there could be felons, pedophiles, you know, I mean, there's no regulations, they don't have to have fire extinguishers, they can have 50 people in their house. You know, it's really, it's not, I didn't buy a house next to a hotel.
I'm sorry, you didn't buy a house
Next to a hotel.
Which is what
Yes.
it turned out.
Which is what it's turned out to be. So, and you know, people will make money if they think they can, and that's, you know, my neighbor's thought.
I just
Make
want to
big
tell you that this is, I think, probably at the top of everybody's list here, as far as you're concerned. It is very complicated, because our zoning law was never amended to address this new phenomenon of Airbnb, et cetera. And of course, Airbnb is just one of the many companies. There are, if you go, you know, if you Google this, you find many communities regulate it in different ways. Some communities ban it outright. Some communities regulate it 270 days of the year, so that they allow people to, I'm giving you for instances. In some places, for 90 days of the year, you can use your place for a short-term rental. They're allowed in some districts and not in other districts. The problem that we have right now is that if we try to enforce what we have on our book, which is a very unspecific, because again, the way our law was written back in 1989, this phenomenon was nowhere on the horizon. You'll notice probably last year, I think, or late last year, the town of Curly tried to prosecute a short-term rental, and they lost. They lost in court. And so, right. So it's very complex. And at this point, as far as this summer is concerned, let's face it, it's too late for anything to happen this summer. Now, one of the reasons, in fact, one of the biggest reasons why I kicked the town into a new comprehensive planning process was this is really, to me, one of the most compelling, and as far as I'm concerned personally, pernicious matters facing the town. There is no community in a hotel. And if we turn all our houses into hotels, that's going to be the end of Woodstock. It's just going to be a hotel. So I have a personal feeling about it, but I don't pretend to necessarily express the community's feeling about it. That will be the job of the comprehensive plan committee, or excuse me, the comprehensive plan process, which I'm hoping will be initiated immediately after the turn of the year. We have an RFP out now for consultants for it. I've worked very hard with some people in our town to put together an inventory so that these people will know immediately just what sort of a community we are without having to research us to any deep extent. These people should be on the ground and ready to roll and engage the community in this conversation immediately. And when the community speaks, it usually comes, the whole point of a comprehensive plan is to amend your zoning law. What sort of amendments should we adopt to meet the community's wants, needs, and desires? This, I'm sure, is going to be a very top priority matter. And once there is proposed legislation, it would surprise me to think that this town board would stall in implementing it. So that's where we are now. I apologize for our delinquency in this. It's just, I mean, this crept up on us like a thief in the night.
There's over 400 feet in.
I think there's higher something than that.
More than that.
Well, that's, I was gonna say just on Airbnb.
And I just want to say, you know, again, because there's a distinction here in short-term rentals. Our zoning law specifically allows short-term rentals in B&B establishments, which are homes where the homeowner is present.
Right.
And if it's 2 rooms or less, it's considered just a B&B, and if it's more than that, it's considered a B&B establishment, which requires an SUP from the planning board. So the issues that concern us all, light, noise, parking, garbage, etc., can all be addressed and stipulated in the planning board's special use permit. And then if they violate that permit, the permit can be lifted and they can lose that right, or privilege, as the case may be. Anyway, this is, you know, it's going to be heading toward this in some form or another. I couldn't tell you what, because again, I have my personal feelings about it, but I'm waiting for the community to step forward and express its feeling about it. So that's where we're at. I know it's frustrating. I have it on my block as well, I just want you to know. So it's not that I'm immune to this, and I see on a daily basis, and I hear on a daily basis, just how it is affecting our community. Bear with us. We will get our community back. It's not going to be turned into a commodity, I promise you.
Okay, well, I would certainly hope not. And on that note, I would say that, you know, honestly, I think that you would get a lot of support for there not being exceptions. Like, not to say like 20 days a year, that's ridiculous. Like 20 days is a lot when you have like a 30-person party next door.
Mhm.
So, you know,
Yeah.
I really think that the easiest thing to do is just to say, you can't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, what you're saying, people can't, but.
The one other thing I would add is I think with what we've learned about what our existing law says, in the next week or two, we do hope to sit down with perhaps our attorney and the building inspector and just look at what we have and if there's any way that what we have now can maybe curtail some of the activities going on.
Okay, because by next January, February, people are gonna have their houses booked for next summer.
Also, we spent probably 6 months to a year waiting for the report from the attorney on the Airbnbs. We have that now.
Oh, okay.
This is part of the report that we got. So it took a long time to get this. It's a shame things take this long, but they do.
And a lot of money.
But I'm with Bill, like if we can in the next few weeks look at what we finally got, review it. I certainly would like Airbnbs to only be owner occupied. The fact that people are just buying houses and renting them out is awful. As you say, we don't want hotels.
Well,
next to
no,
us.
they're there the rest of the year. They just take off for the summer and they rent
Well,
their house.
yeah, but they're
But
not
with a
supposed to
B,
do
with
that.
a B&B,
No, I know, they're there.
with the owner is
Yeah,
present
no, I
during
understand.
the
Yeah,
weekend.
yeah,
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's typically, those aren't the ones that are the problem.
they
It's-
are not.
It's the bigger houses with multiple bedrooms that are renting out to 15.
As you will.
Yeah.
And we can relate, I think at least 3 of us on the board actually have neighbors.
Yeah.
who
You
are-
know,
So we get it.
Interestingly enough, the one that's been problematic by me, they rented out long-term for the summer for at least a month, and it was wonderful. There were kids up there, they played during the day, there was no wild parties, not once this summer has it been an issue.
Right.
But they're long-term people who
Right,
become,
yeah, yeah.
you know, even if they're there for a month, you become aware, oh, there's a house there and there's a neighbor
Yeah.
here. It's not rolling in on Friday night, you know, in the dark and not knowing that there's anybody for miles.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have one last one, Angela?
I'm not Joe with Whole Farm, and hopefully you'll be able to help me. There's some kind of a zoning law, but I live at 107 Tinker Street, and I also own the building. I have a couple of rental apartments there. And recently this summer, a bar opened up at the old train station, and there's a lot of noise coming from there. Mostly on Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, there's live music. We can't have our windows open. You know, I'd like to listen to my TV and not have to close the window, try to drown out that music. So
Band is outside?
I'm sorry?
Is the music?
Yes.
They're playing outside?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
I don't know whether they're able to accommodate, you know, like the music inside. The other thing that happens is at closing time, we just like at Joe Park, there's a lot of individuals that are leaving, you know, and the car alarms are going off, you know, goodbye, you know, cars honking and things like that. So it's a noise factor. I didn't get any kind of notice when the bar opened up, you know, that there was going to be live music and all that. And initially, when I first heard about it, I thought it might be good, you know, for the area. I thought it'd be like low-key wine or something like that, just with, you know, piano music or something, but that's not the case. I don't know whether it's something that you guys can help or,
Well, what I want to say is, I know, I was on the planning board before I was here, and I recall that was a case that had begun. I wasn't still on the planning board as it continued, but my thought is I would be interested to know, I think the planning board secretary is out at the moment, but I saw on the sign that I think she's going to be back next week perhaps. But my thought is it may be of interest to go look up with the planning board, how the case came through. I expect they probably got a special use permit. It would be of interest to go read what they got, what exactly the planning board approved. Because if they're doing what they're approved to do, then they're approved. And normally what the planning board process includes is public hearings. So I would be interested, if I were in your shoes, I would be talking to Therese Fernandez to find out what exactly did the planning board approve. And if they're doing what the planning board approved, then they are approved, but they might have to re-up, say, next year for special use permit, and you would have more information. If they're not approved, it would be good to know that too, because then that's a different path you could take. So I think it would be good to know what the planning board did or did not approve as far as what they were allowed to do.
Well, the other thing is, I don't know whether they fall under like a certain noise level, like so many decimals. Or
Yes, they do, like everyone else does.
Uh-huh.
And
because-
unfortunately, it's a very difficult law to prosecute, but I will, you know what, do you have contact information?
I do not.
Tell me your phone number.
It's 845-679-3243.
And I'm sorry, tell me your name again?
Angelo Tovar. I did speak to Alan a couple of weeks back on this, so I never heard back, so I don't know whether,
Angelo, let me look into this, and I'll give you a
Was
call.
that your letter in the paper a couple of weeks ago?
Yes. Someone. And like tonight, I see a lot of cars coming up, and like there's, I understood that they were going to be parking in the Como property, but there's like up and down Tinker Street, so obviously it's not just limited there. Eventually, when they do leave, they're, everybody's back again in front of the building, and so it's back again, we've got to close our windows and all that.
Angelo, I'll give you a call, I'll look into this. To get the actual file, I'll probably have to wait for Teresa to come back from vacation, it shouldn't be too long. But, I'll see what I can do.
No, I have a copy of it.
Yeah, now we should have a
Oh, you do?
Yeah,
Oh, the
yeah.
SUV?
I filed all of those.
Yeah, okay. Oh, good. Oh, good, great. I'll get back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
We're done.
Okay, Kathy, I know you're just burning with it now.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Well, actually, I want to talk about the DARK Act, which is Deny Americans the Right to Know. It's all about the GMO and labeling on food. I think that, I'll read you a little piece of what's been going on with the GMO laws. I find it disturbing, but let me just read you some of this. The so-called compromise bill only compromises the consumer's right to know. The growing calls by consumer right groups and concerned citizens for clearly labeling foods produced which inevitably modified ingredients suffered a major, potentially grievous setback Thursday when the Senate passed a so-called compromise bill. Critics say the compromise legislation, originally passed by the House last summer and then tweaked in the Senate, is actually a giant favor to the deep-pocketed pro-GMO food lobby. I mean, it just goes on and on. I can read you, I think, copies, pages of this. I just think we should all be aware of the fact that we're facing a struggle here with our food and our GMO labeling. If you have the opportunity to go online and respond and sign petitions, whatever we can do to try and overturn some of these laws, I think it's crucial for our children and grandchildren and future generations, and ourselves too. But I mean, the fact that they in other countries they don't allow this. I mean, it just goes on and on what they've been doing and how the big companies have gotten the Congress, the Senate to pass these laws. I think it's important. I have a bunch of, well, it's a bunch of different things, but I got it all online. You can get the information and respond in any way you see fit. I think it's important we keep aware of what's going on with our food and our labeling and our GMOs.
Has Obama signed this?
I think he did, just the other day. So that was disturbing too.
Well, this is not just a matter of food. This is another example of the shreds of what is left of democracy in this country disappearing.
Mhm. In fact, it overturns some laws in some of the states that had to have, stricter labeling. This law now overturns those previously passed laws. So it's even taking away some of the labeling that was going on. I think it was Vermont and I forget which other state.
California,
What?
California.
Maybe. But on top of the fact that they're taking away things that we've already accomplished by passing these laws, is pretty disturbing. So I just thought people should be aware. If they're not, look into it, sign those petitions online and do what you can to support these groups.
Thank you. Fire.
Yes, announcements. I'd like to bring the board up to date very briefly, excuse me, on what I've been doing about the Mountain View parking lot and putting it on a paved basis similar to the Rock City Road, as well as, excuse me, a section that will be, there are two of these.
Same copy? So Laura and I can have our
As well as putting
We'll share, yeah.
a overnight parking area into it. By the way, this is something that Michelle in our clerk's office dashed off at my request. For when we establish this, for people to put on their dashboard so that when the police come around at night to check, they will see that these are legally parked, because we don't have that. This area here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parking spots for handicapped people, is the only area in the entire place that will be paved, macadamized. Otherwise, nothing. And the plan is that for delineating other parking spots, concrete blocks will be put down similar to what we have already over here.
with fencing.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things we're going to need is a small booth for someone there to hand out the tickets and take the money, the $5. And I'm told by our wonderful maintenance department that to build that booth will be less than $600. I'm still waiting for Mike, the superintendent of highways, to inform me as to what the basic costs are going to be. I hope to have that soon, the cost, and I'll certainly report on the whole package ASAP. But this is where we are at the moment.
So, Jed, the only, because I talked to Mike today and was helping him out with some of the pricing for this, and one of the things we talked about was that instead of having the handicapped over there, to put it on the stream side, where they would have closer access to the sidewalk there.
Yes, we talked about that as well.
So,
And parenthetically, the area that I would like to designate as appropriate for paid overnight parking would be immediately right around here to the right, up toward the stream bank.
you mean like 1 through 11?
Yeah, yeah, that area
Do we
there.
have a light there?
Pardon?
Do we have a,
Oh, a traffic light?
not a street light, you know,
I mean,
a street light.
a street light, yeah. There's one
Yeah,
over there.
here, okay, because you don't want people's cars parked overnight without having at least one light on
Yeah, whatever is possible.
them. Okay.
And people, of course, are able to park wherever they choose, even though it's not legal. But whatever parking permits we give out for this area, or any area to be designated, will be checked by the police twice a night at least. I've verified that with them already. So again, I just wanted you to see where things are progressing.
So I have a question. I have a question for you. So I know at one point we thought that this might be very handy for people who wanted to pay, say, a month at a time for parking, because they maybe have a home here and
That's
there.
what he's talking about.
Right, so with the 1 through 11, is the idea that I might have reserved number 2 and it's always reserved for me, or is the idea this is overnight parking and whoever is parking overnight parks in whatever spot they want? So am I reserving a specific spot, like spot number 5?
Like a spot.
We could work out those details, I mean, it could work either way.
Yeah, nothing is in stone
Doesn't
yet,
have to
this
be.
is
Okay, well, what I
where
like,
I'm at so far.
yeah, okay. But I was just thinking, yeah, if we're accommodating monthly parking, where people want to park, reserve it a month at a time, might get a specific spot, whereas if people just paid for overnight parking, maybe they go here, but if it's full, they can park someplace else. I'm just trying to differentiate between the person who wants to have like a full year ticket to park versus somebody who's just overnight.
I would think that it would be easy, because remember, you're gonna have people coming in here for the day, and then you'll have people coming in for long-term parking. It might be easier just to designate an area
As long term.
and let them pick a spot, because you know you're gonna get people parking in there short-term. So if somebody pulls into spot one, and then I come back from the city for my month,
Yeah, I don't want to.
one is reserved, one, is taken, now I'm gonna be annoyed. If I know it's just 1 through 11 or 1 through 24, and I just pick one,
Yeah.
it just,
As long as we think it through, as long as we think through how we're gonna handle it.
Right.
Deed Stadium for years, and all of a sudden, right now, you can't park.
Yeah,
Deed Stadium took away long time parking for trailers people.
Right.
They're not allowing it
When you say
anymore.
long term over, because I got a
Like-
prepaid pass there recently.
Yeah, but it's like for after a week, you can't, like, in other words, you can't do it, so what Laura's saying about the
A
month,
month, right.
they don't allow that anymore. And, so there must be a reason that something,
well,
Well,
you have to investigate it.
we could work out our own Woodstock prime plan for whatever we're going to do here. With all sorts of, if somebody has a big trailer to park, that very well could have a different price than a car.
I think what a lot of people that I've spoken with who are interested in this long-term parking are weekenders, second homeowners, who would like to take the bus up, get off the green, walk over, get their car, drive up to their house,
Yeah.
and then they leave it for a week or two while they're in the city, they come back, and that's what they're looking for.
but I don't want this to be like an elitist thing where, oh, geez, and now I have a parking space for 6 months and no one else can use it during the day, during the week. So I'd like it to be, as you say, maybe a weekly thing, so they have to be here, come back, renew it. I don't want somebody to be able to just buy a spot for a year.
But if they paid for it, why not?
Well, because I think it becomes a problem for other people who want to use it. Maybe all of a sudden, 50 people buy a spot for a year and then nobody else can use it.
Well, we can limit it. I mean, I think if we got 10 or 15 would be,
Yeah.
that would be a lot.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, this lot is very, very, very rarely even 3/4 full.
No, it's pretty.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but
There's a
it's-
couple of weekends, you're right, but not
in any
more
event,
often than not.
in any event, I, request that the board sit on all their concepts and questions and so forth until I'm able to make a full report. And as I've said before, when I took this on, my plan is for paid parking on the same basis as Rock City Road, as well as the overnight parking area. So I'm still there.
It's great.
Thank you. A nice progress, very nice progress.
Good, thank you.
Do you want your map back?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, anyone else?
Was anybody going to remind you about volunteers day?
Oh, no, go ahead and remind us.
It's Volunteers Day this Saturday. It starts at 3, although I heard that there will be some, actually your grandson will be playing at 2:20. So,
And are the fireworks the same night?
yes,
Yes.
and the
Yes.
Alzheimer's,
Award at 8 o'clock. I've heard the Alzheimer's Award will be given out at 8 o'clock.
and please come, there's going to be lots of events for the children. Face painting, I think there might be some virtual reality things and jumping houses and, please come and honor our volunteers. A lot of the different stores in town have donated different items for silent auction, so there'll be that this year, as well as all the different restaurants who are always so generous to donate food, and thank you to family for all the work they now do once they took that over a few years ago. It's greatly appreciated, all the work they put in for Volunteers Day. So come enjoy, stay for the day, stay for the fireworks, bring your children, and have a great day. Listen to a lot of
It's
good
always a
music.
good time.
It's good
Yeah,
music.
so it's always a good time, and Woodstock thanks its volunteers because we have a ton of volunteers, and so hopefully the volunteers come and enjoy the day. And I think that the free meal still happens, right, Kathy?
Oh, yes, volunteers get a free meal. I want to thank all the people who have contributed. You know, it's was like five volunteer lunch, and you know, we got a lot of checks for what a lunch would normally cost, and we've had, Sam's gotten so many donations this year. It's been wonderful. So thank everyone who has given big and small donations, all the stores in town, all the restaurants in town. Lots of the stores have now put flyers in the window to remind you of it, and
Why don't you do that?
thank you all for your support.
Yeah, but thank you to the volunteers. Certain people come and get a good lunch. And even, as Kathy says, even if you're not a volunteer, it's a great day to come support the volunteers. And the fireworks are the best, I would
They
say.
are the best. So,
William?
I just want to briefly mention that the passing of Walter Anderson, the husband of former town clerk Kathy Anderson, I think joined the board in sending our condolences to Kathy. So,
Great couple.
Yes.
Walt was a great guy.
he was a great guy. Kathy's the best.
Kathy's fabulous.
They had to enjoy each other very much because they were so different.
they did.
That's what I told Kathy when I went to the the viewing, or whatever you call it, the little service they had for him. I said, Kathy, you guys must have really enjoyed each other. But he was a very up spirit, yes, and the town will miss him,
Yes.
absolutely. You know, there's another Walter who passed away. He wasn't a Woodstocker, but Walter Maxwell, who was the former owner of WGHQ, a local radio station in Kingston. Some of you may remember his stepfather, who was Harry Thayer. Harry Thayer was this, considered at the time anyway, a very right-wing commentator. He was the one who christened the glass menagerie, because it was being built around that time, back in the 1960s. He had that sort of, get a job, get a haircut approach to the hippie movement that was going on at that time. Quite frankly, when I was growing up, I detested Harry Thayer. But anyway, years go by, and I become supervisor of the town of Woodstock, and I'm invited by Walter Maxwell, his stepson, who now was running the radio. He had sold the station, but had leased back from the new owners 2 hours a morning, actually in the beginning it was 3 hours a morning, to put up so-called KCR, Kingston Community Radio. And various political figures and community figures from around the county were invited to come and host these shows 5 days a week. And I was invited to host on Wednesdays. We called it Super Wednesday, because I shared the microphone with Supervisor Greg Helsmortal and my good friend Supervisor Ray Rice from the Sobers. And so the three of us and Walter Maxwell used to sit around and bark into the microphone. What I so deeply appreciated about Walter Maxwell, who I would describe as a sort of center-right on the political spectrum, and I describe myself as a center-left on the political spectrum, was just the incredibly civil disagreements that we could have on the subject of politics, which we conducted over the air, by the way, in between commercials, but also over the air. He was just a wonderful gentleman and a wonderful man to debate, Walter Maxwell. He died suddenly last week, and I was just very grieved to have heard that, because he really was a wonderful moderating voice in the community, and I know that he's going to be missed. It's my understanding that his widow is going to continue the Kingston Community Radio programming. I wish her the best of luck with that. I think it's, 90, 91.5? on your AM dial. Anyway, it's a wonderful show. It's also streams.
9:20, yeah, right.
And 9:20 on your radio dial, on your AM dial. And it streams. And it's just, I'm going to miss Walter very, very much. So, with that, we now have some resolutions. Be it resolved to accept the town clerk's report.
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Aye. Be it resolved to authorize transfers per the transfer sheet.
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved to authorize payment of audited vouchers in the amount of $180,294.55.
Second?
In favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved to authorize use of the town hall on September 23 through 25 from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. for hospitality by the Woodstock Comedy Festival, a not-for-profit benefiting Family of Woodstock's domestic violence prevention program and the Polaris Human Trafficking Prevention Program.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Whereas, recently the public was invited to Kenneth Wilson State Park located in the southwestern portion of the town of Woodstock to offer suggestions for the park's improvement, and whereas the Woodstock community overwhelmingly recommended that the former swimming facility, now closed for several years, be restored. And whereas lately letters to the press and to the Woodstock Town Board from Woodstock residents also support restoring the swimming facility. And whereas the DEC appears to have full support of the Woodstock community for its effort to restore the swimming facility at the park. And whereas such a restoration would not only benefit the swimming community, but also relieve congestion at other swimming spots in town, two of which are accessed over private property and have become problematic. Therefore, it be it resolved the Woodstock Town Board strongly supports restoration of the swimming facility at Wilson State Park, and furthermore asks of state officials, especially second officials, to allocate to the DEC funding to follow through with this popular project, and be it further resolved to forward to Governor Cuomo and Assemblyman Kevin Cahill and State Senator, would you capitalize that, Senator, for me, thank you, George Amador, a certified copy of this resolution.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So if you could certify that with those two corrections, and we'll get that off in tomorrow's mail. Be it resolved to authorize an advertisement in the official newspaper for a part-time cleaner for the town of Woodstock. All in favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved to request of Mark Morano of the New York State DOT at 4 Burnett Boulevard, Poughkeepsie, New York, 12603, a study which may lead to the establishment of a crosswalk from directly in front of the Woodstock Town Hall, 76 Tinker Street, aka State Route 2112, to across the street.
Second.
In favor? Yes.
Sir, I suggest a couple of language changes. Be resolved of at Poughkeepsie, New York, 12603, to institute a study which will, rather than may, lead to the establishment of a crosswalk from directly in front of the Woodstock Town Hall.
Suppose the study says that it's...
Pardon?
Suppose the study says it's a ridiculous idea.
Jay, I tell you what, you can help me write the letter that I will be drafting with this resolution.
Fine.
And we can willfully...
And I have another
Assertions.
suggestion about it as well. We, at least as much as we need a crosswalk there for pedestrian safety, we need another one that's at least equally important across the road at Joshua's.
Yeah, but they already denied that one for line of sight.
I will not accept the fact that they denied it. I think that if we go back to them with another polite request, that it couldn't hike.
Well, I'll tell you what, in this letter that I draft, why don't we remind him of that history and ask him to, since we already sent them a resolution regarding that, we'll ask them to review again the decision. How's that?
Fine. When do you want to do that?
Tomorrow.
What time?
Well, I get to the office at 4:30 in the morning.
I'll
I
be
leave
there.
at 5.
I'll be waiting for you at 4.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, did you,
We
Jerry?
have a meeting at 11:30.
At 11:30, yeah.
Yeah, so-
Okay, fine. I'll be there in
Yeah.
the morning.
Okay.
And does this go down with you as well?
Oh, yeah, I had sent the email today, I don't know if you saw the email I sent today requesting the resolution, which I greatly appreciate the resolution being on the agenda today. What I did want to add to it, though, is I would actually recommend that as opposed to saying the crosswalk directly in front of the Woodstock Town Hall, in case they say, no, it can't be there, I would like it to say directly in front of the Woodstock Town Hall, or as close as possible, because I wouldn't want to say it can only be directly in front,
But you
because,
know what, they will tell us that. And the reason why I put it directly in front of the town hall is because that already has the ramp.
it does, yes.
Has a cutout.
It
So
has a cutout.
you can't go much further to either side of it, because if you go a little westerly, there's no longer a consolidated sidewalk, and you will not put a crosswalk where it's not a consolidated sidewalk. And just a few feet to the other side is the driveway, so they're not gonna let us put it there.
Right, but if you look over on the other side of Woodstock Hardware, where the sidewalk ramps up, so my thought is, as long as your letter says, if you can't do it directly in front, where can it be as close as possible? So I would just like to make sure that we're not being so narrow that they say no.
Yeah.
That's all.
These really are human beings, they're not computers that come out there and talk about these things.
Yeah, no, okay.
We'll be able to communicate all this stuff.
That long roll of pictures that I brought here some time ago
Yes.
with all the crosswalks, many of them indicating no curb cut, some of them indicating, no
Yeah.
curb.
Well, some of them don't.
Some of them indicating not even a road.
Yeah, well, you're correct about that, because I researched also, and I have notes from walking up and down the street too, and you're right, some of them didn't, but if they're gonna put a new one in, they're gonna follow the law. And oh, by the way, the crosswalks got painted, they look lovely, I don't know if you've noticed, but since we talked about this at the last meeting, the crosswalks did get painted, and they do look lovely, and there are even more
Please
crosswalks.
share with the public how
He was brutal on the phone, demanding that be taken care of. I was getting out of the truck, I could hear him yelling from outside the building.
Well, the
He can be quite effective sometimes.
But there are crosswalks I didn't even know were there, because there's a new one that wasn't there when I looked, and they were so faded before it was hard to see them, but.
Up by the old post office?
Well, the old
That
post
shouldn't
office,
even be
but
there.
also at Rock City Road, when I looked before, there was not a crosswalk going from one side of the street to the other, crossing Rock City Road, and there's a nice crosswalk there now. So they did a great job, the crosswalks are easy to see, well labeled, but the one that you've asked this resolution, I agree 100%.
And I wasn't sure if I heard it earlier, there is a curb cut when you're coming out of the drugstore, the apothecary, to the right, adjacent to the lamppost there. There is a curb cut.
You're talking about Rite Aid or CVS?
No, the
Oh,
apothecary.
the apothecary, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. Well, I know what Jeremy's saying, though, about near Joshua's, and I'm not sure if you're there, but because the line of sight will make a difference, and they do have laws, so we have to have them come in and see what they believe they can do. Because I agree with you, it'd be very handy around Joshua's, either, before that road or after that road, but if the line of sight doesn't allow it, we can't cause a safety problem.
Well, we need to lean on them.
Yeah,
All in
but-
favor?
All in favor?
Can I make a comment on the word may? Will is not used, the legal terms would be shall.
Shall. Yeah. We'll put that in there. Be it resolved pursuant to a recommendation of the Woodstock Environmental Commission to appoint Bobby Raphael ex officio member of the Woodstock Environmental Commission.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
This conversation we just had reminded me, and I'm sorry I don't have a precise date, but it's coming up pretty soon. As you may or may not be aware, New York State is going to begin a stricter enforcement of handicap access on our streets and sidewalks. And of course, we have many areas in our town where we're very sadly deficient with handicapped access. They are going to require towns to, if not immediately address these issues, draw up a long-term plan for addressing these issues. There's going to be a seminar on this subject, and I'm sorry, again, I don't have the date, but it is very soon. It's not this week, I'm going to say it's sometime next week. I've already heard from Alan Van Leuven that he would be willing to attend this. I hope Mike Reynolds could attend it as well. I think it would be a good idea if a member of the board could go. I would commit myself, although at this moment I'm not able to. There is something about the date which may be a conflict for me. But if the there's somebody on this board who'd like to commit themselves,
So is it-
what I will do is I will send out to everybody the precise date,
Just send me the date.
and then if one of you would step forward, that would really be wonderful.
Is it Albany or where?
No, it's in Stone Ridge.
Oh,
It's at
close by.
yeah, it's close by, yeah.
Okay, sure, so I can look into it, but yeah.
Okay, I'll send out the precise date.
You'd probably be able to I'll be happy.
Well, Stone,
Okay.
I can drive down there.
Okay.
Or carpool, either way. Sure.
Okay, well, that's all I got. Anybody else? Okay. You to adjourn? In favor?
How's the picture business, Cyrus? Compared to last year,
I'll take care of that tomorrow.
compared to last year's stuff.
Yeah.